let's talk about browser APIs. So the reason for this talk was that I was experimenting with something, and I started seeing like a bunch of different things that my browser can do, and I didn't know about it, and I was kind of surprised. So I wanted to introduce you to some of those today, and yeah, let's just get started. Let's just jump into it. Where's my cursor? There it is. So let me introduce myself. That's funny. That's like a big picture of me next to me. So why don't I go slightly smaller there. Beep. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Joel. I am a developer advocate at Red Hat OpenShift. I am based in Canada, in Ottawa, Canada. For those who don't know me, it's Joel Inception. So yeah, that's the small French Canadian accent you might have noticed there. I love Twitter. I absolutely love Twitter. So Joel with 2 underscores. We don't see it really well there, but there's 2 underscores there. Lord, that's my handle. So yeah, so reach out on Twitter, make some noise, make sure everybody knows about Code PaLOusa, that it's still going on, even in virtual format. I think it's important to let everyone know that Code PaLOusa is there to stay. So, and I'm very happy to be part of this conference. I've been here a few times, and I do miss being in Louisville, but you know, I'm in the comfort of my own home, and so that's kind of nice, I guess. I get really excited whenever I have a Twitter notifications, so please use them. Also, you know, you don't want to miss gifts of myself, right? Like, all right, so enough. Oh, bourbon. I am not a big fan of bourbon, but I discovered bourbon in my first Code PaLOusa. That was a very good memories for what I can remember. I will be monitoring the chat window right there. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them there. I'll try to keep an eye on it. I'll try to do better than this morning's session where I wasn't monitoring very well, but I'll definitely keep an eye on it today. So I'll talk about a bunch of different browser APIs, different stuff that you can find that you know, that you didn't know that you can use with your browser. But the first thing I want to talk about is Websockets, and you'll see why I'm talking about that. So technically, Websockets are not a browser API, and I know that, so that's fine. But I kind of wanted to talk about it just because I'll be using them in demos, and a lot of people always ask me how I do those demos. And I'll be using WebSockets to do so. WebSockets are great. They're great for any real-time communication. So if you have a web application and you need to send information to the connected clients, WebSockets are great for that. If you have a dashboard that you want to put with some real-time data, you know, use WebSockets. If you have, well, just about anything, like most modern applications have some sort of real-time component to it. And I think they are definitely way underused. Out of curiosity, who here is a JavaScript developer, either Node.js or front end, out of curiosity? Not a lot of people in the chat saying, okay, there's Ron. Yeah, I knew that. Devin knows some JavaScript. That's good. Who's a .NET developer? I think most people at this conference are .NET, right? That in 20 other languages. Do you know French? Yeah, some .NET, a little bit more popularity with .NET. Most of my examples will be using, well, they'll all be JavaScript because I'll be talking about the browser. But server-side, I'll be talking a little bit about Node. That's the one language that I'm really comfortable with, the one that I'm using pretty much on a day-to-day basis. So that's the one I'll be using in some, or at least some of the following demos. So back to WebSockets, I definitely think they're underused. I gave a talk on WebSockets like 5 years ago. And still nobody really uses them. So they've been around for quite a while, and they are surprisingly easy to implement. So if you have an Express server or Node.js server, basically you can use socket.io, the library socket.io, and you just append it, or you just use it on your HTTP server that you've created with Node.js. And that's it. That's all you need to know to do. And you have WebSockets enabled on your server. So really, it's a single line of code that you can add. I believe there's it's relatively easy in .NET as well. In PHP, you can just add a library. I can't remember the name. I say Ratchet. Ratchet is the name of the library. So relatively easy to implement on the server side. And if you're using socket.io, it actually provides your HTTP server with this file, socket.io.js, that your client can now download or include as part of their client-side JavaScript. Once they have this library, they can use a socket and they can use IO, the class IO, which is now a global variable inside your code. Now, once you connect, you have different events on your socket. So you can use socket.onConnect. You can see that you are actually connected to the server. You can actually use the same event on the server side to see whenever there's a client that gets connected on the server side. You can also then emit some messages. So you provide a channel to which you want to provide those messages, and then you can provide either a string or a JSON object to emit on that channel. What this will do is that it will send communication to the server. All right, not very impressive. You could use Ajax as well. I know, that's fine. but what is interesting is that you can also use that same command on your server, socket.emit, and push something to your client. So that's where they get very powerful and they get very interesting. So you also have an event listener for all of your channels. So socket on, and you provide it with the name of the channel, and then you'll get the message, and then you can simply alert the message or do whatever you want to do with it. So relatively easy to use, once again, and they make it for real-time communication. Very good. Now, and I wanted to start there because I wanted to slowly introduce my demo platform. So what I did for this presentation, and you might have already seen a few things there, but this is actually a React application that is running in my browser right now. And I will have an application that you can connect to. So let me just type this in here. So HTTP easy URL 2/browser what. Okay, so you can connect to there. If you actually, let me connect it in real time right here. So I can make sure that you're actually seeing the right thing. Easy URL. Ugh, typing is hard. Easy URL. Okay, got it. Okay, so what you should have right now is, I didn't fully update it, as you can see. So I forgot the name of the last conference in there. So imagine it says Code PaLOusa. And you should have a message saying that it's waiting right now. So if that's what you have, that's good. So get your browsers out, your phones. It works a little bit better on mobile phones. Who's an iOS user? Who has an iPhone? Not too many people, apparently. Good. Oops. Sorry, Marty. So that will not work as well, but that's good. That's fine. So some demos will work. Unfortunately, I don't have Android. Perfect, Martin. So Android is great. Most demos should work on Android. Some of them will work on a desktop browser. Some of them will work on iOS, but not all of them. Unfortunately, I was able to borrow an iOS device and fix a few of the bugs that I had, but not all of them, unfortunately. But it should still give you some sort of a feeling of what's going on. All right, let's get on to it. Let's get on to our first demo. So get your browsers out, get your phones out to that address, and let's just go there. So that gives you 10-second warning to go on, open up this application, and we should have our first demo using Websockets. So you'll actually be able to see what do Websockets do. So now you should have a demo on your phone. So in here, there's an input box, and you can just type in some text, and it should appear on my screen right now. So there you go. Yeah, cool. Hello world. So yeah, so that's what Websockets do. So as you can see, you should also see the text on your devices as well. So basically, you're using a WebSocket to send a message to my server, and then that server just transmits or broadcasts that message to all the connected devices. So that's how, I think that's you, Marty. So iPhone is cool. So it works. That's good. Perfect. By now, there's usually someone who put up a poop emoji by now, but apparently you guys are a decent crowd. There you go. I'll do it. There's also usually someone who tries to script injection by this time, but I guess you're well behaved. Good. So this gives you, and this is what we're going to use today. So each one of the different browser APIs I'm going to introduce I will I will use that same platform for demos. So you'll have that 10-second warning so that you can open up your phone and test them out on your own. Also, I'll be providing at the end with my GitHub repository. Just check me out on Twitter. So Joe2_Lord. And I will be sharing the link to a lot of documentation, a lot of stuff related to this, as well as all the code example, the actual code for my slide deck as well. So you can see how I interact with all of those devices. Okay, so WebSockets. Can you use WebSockets? Just use them. They're supported, well supported in any browser since IE10. You can see that it's all green. So pretty much just everything supports WebSockets nowadays. Unless you really need to support Android 2.5 or something, then you should probably be using WebSockets in your application. So anything that requires some sort of real-time feedback, don't do polling or don't do, just you can easily use WebSockets to push data to your users and give them a feeling of real-time interactions. Good. All right. So what about those web APIs I promised? Fair enough, that is not a web API, but I just want to kind of slowly introduce you to what I'm going to do here today by using WebSockets. Okay. Caffeine is kicking in, so I'm feeling a little bit more energy now. Okay, so first API we'll be talking about is the notification API. The notification API you've probably all seen already because it feels like every other site is using them right now. So it gives you that pop-up telling you that website X wants to give you some notifications while you're not looking at the page, and you've probably all clicked block on them, so you've never actually tried it. So this today is your first time to actually be able to click on allow and see what will happen when you do that. There is a way to don't be afraid. There's a way to easily unsubscribe to those notifications so you don't get notifications each time I do this presentation. So you'll be able to actually click on allow and you'll see what happens when you accept notifications. So notifications will alert users that are not present on a page. There's a push notification API, which is a little bit different than this one. Really, we're looking at the notification one. It requires the user permission. So that's that little alert that you've seen, and that one is enforced by your browser. So it requires the user permission, and it needs, yes, it just requires the user permission for that one. To do a notification, you can use the notification object, which is present in your browser, and you can do request permission. So that will display that small pop-up, and then you'll have a callback inside of it. Once the user actually clicked on the permission, accepted or denied, you can always use the notification object again and try the permission property, which will tell you if the user actually granted access or not. If he did, you can use the new notification object and just create a notification that says hello in this case. So that will push a notification to our users saying hello. That's a very simple notification. So you can either just specify a string, which works very well, or you can pass in an object. So in this case, I'm creating a little bit more complex notification. So it will have a title of hello. Then it will have a body that will say more details, and then you can add as much detail as you want in here, and you can even add icons to your notifications. Now, each operating system acts very differently, so they don't display the notifications the same way. But usually using title, body, and icon should provide some sort of similar experience between all of the different operating systems. For mobile devices, you need to register a service worker. So that's very important. So when I first played with notification, nothing would happen on my mobile devices. And that's because I didn't have a service worker registered. Now, that service worker doesn't need to do anything, but it just needs to be there inside of your browser. So you can use navigator.serviceworker.register. Just register some sort of notification worker, and you can see the service worker, the service worker details in my GitHub repo. But I think it just does a simple console log. So you just need to register a service worker, and this one will be in charge of then display the notifications. So that kind of happens magically in your browser. When it's registered, you can then use the show notification, and then you'll be able to display those notifications. All right, so get your browsers out. You should have our first demo. So let's see. We have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there it is. Perfect. So you should now have one big button that says listen for notifications. And it says waiting on a user, current permission. Well, I have granted because I already granted permissions on this device. Now that you have accepted, finally, for the first time ever, I'm pretty sure, because nobody ever accepts notifications, I should be able to push a notification to your device. So if I click on small, I got it on mine. So I got this, this is a notification. And if I click on large notification, there you go. You should have one a little bit more complex. I have it right here on this device. You might be able to see. So there's an icon, there's a larger description, there's the title. So I'm now able to push notifications on your devices. Good. I'll just leave that for one more second, just in case you missed the allow just in time. I'll send you one last notification just because I can. I now have control over your phone. I can send notifications whenever I want. I promise I won't use it for malicious purposes. Okay, so we now have a notification API. You saw the first demo. Can you use notification API? You can actually use them surprisingly on most browsers. Once again, highly supported. It's been part of Edge since the beginnings. Chrome and Firefox will support it. Unfortunately, IE won't support it. And that is not a browser that automatically updates, so we can forget about that one. But most modern browsers can still support notifications. All right, not impressive. They're used all over and they are annoying. I know, and that's fine. So yeah, they are used a lot. They might be a little bit overused right now by these days, unfortunately, because that's a feature that could be very interesting for a user. But I think that at least for me, as soon as I see one of those notifications, I immediately click on block before I look at any of the rest of the content of the website. So if you want to put them, it will work. It will definitely work, but you might want to be intentional about having your users really requesting for those instead of immediately, as soon as they hit that page, immediately send them that request for permission. Just for a better experience for your users, it will probably give you a better engagement rate as well. But that's based on my own experience, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that automatically, systematically clicks on block when I see those warnings. All right, so that was our first API. The second one I wanted to introduce is the geolocation API, which is an API that will, well, as the name implies, provide you with the location of your users. So the geolocation API has been around for quite a while. It was slowly introduced. It was part of those APIs that were kind of brought in by the Cordova group. So as PhoneGap came out, or Cordova, they started giving access to the browser to some of the sensors on your mobile device. That was kind of the original goal of PhoneGap. And some of those APIs eventually made their way into the official browser specification. So geolocation kind of comes from there. It will return the position of the user. It will provide you with a latitude and a longitude pair. You can even use it to track movement of your users. Which is kind of scary, but it definitely works. The one thing is that it requires an HTTPS connection on mobile devices. Of course, that could be a major security issue if you would use that on an HTTP non-encrypted connection. So it requires an HTTPS connection on mobile devices, on all devices, actually. That's very important. It's somebody else says they always block notification. So a very important, the HTTPS connection. When I first started playing with the geolocation, once again, I couldn't get it to work. And my issue was simply that I was running it on a local host and it wasn't HTTPS. So I actually had to use an HTTPS connection in order to be able to test it out. So in order to check for support, you can check if Navigator or geolocation is part of Navigator. Navigator is your global object. If it's present, then you can actually use it. If not, well, you can either ignore it or just send a message to your users. Navigator geolocation.getCurrentPosition is the way that you will actually get the position. It's an older API, so it uses a callback instead of it's not promise-based. And in the callback, you will have the position as an object, and you have chords, which are part of that position object, which will provide you with latitude and longitude. It's a little bit out of the screen right here, but you've got longitude right here. So you can get latitude and longitude of your users. If you want to track movement, you can create a watch, and then you'll use navigator geolocation.watchPosition. Then once again, you'll have a callback, and every time that it detects a movement from your user, it will retrigger that event, and then you will this do something will actually be triggered. So that callback will be run by your browser every time that it detects some sort of movement, significant movement. You kind of need to move a little bit in order to trigger it. Once you're done tracking your user, you can do navigator geolocation.clearWatch just to remove that watch, kind of the same way as you would do a clear interval or clear timeout when you have a timer on. All right, time for a demo. Get your phones out. Thank God for fingerprint, because there's no way I would be able to enter my password in 10 seconds. All right, so in your browser, you should now have one button. And one thing that I forgot to mention about this API is that it actually needs to be a user-triggered event. So I actually need the user to intentionally click on a button or to do some sort of event in order to trigger that event. So you can see here in my browser, this presentation is given at, and you have my coordinates. So what it looks like in your Gatineau. So you now know where I live. Just realizing that I'm broadcasting some private information here. So this is my house. So you can see how you can connect to various APIs now that you have latitude and longitude. You can connect to things like the Google API, Google Map API, and get information like the actual coordinates, the actual position, or you could curate the link just like I did in the demo on your mobile device. So there's a link for Google Map of where you are. So this is the Google API, or not the Google API, the geolocation API. Wow, it is hard today. Just a little bit more coffee. All right. Can you use the geolocation API? Yes, it's been broadly supported ever since Internet Explorer 9. Like it's been around for quite a while. You've probably all seen it already. Been there, done that. Okay, fine. I'll go with something new soon enough. But I just wanted to still show you. Not everybody thinks about those APIs some of the time. They are used all the time, but you still need to think about it. Things like if you have a contact form, if you have if you work for a large corporation, you have a website, and then instead of displaying all the different locations, you can probably find the one that is the closest to the user and provide them with the coordinates and the phone number for that office that is a little bit closer. Retail shops use it a lot for store locators type of thing. So definitely you should use them. It's there, it's available, it's supported in most browsers. So it's not one of those fancy new APIs that will disappear in just a few months, weeks, days. But it's something that is there, it's present, it's part of your browser, and you can definitely use them as part of your web development. All right, so here's another one that's a little bit more recent. It's a fun one, page visibility. So page visibility is a way to see if your users are actually looking at the page in question or not. I can see some very good use cases for that, especially if you have things like in nowadays, especially in today's world, where we have a lot of things happening virtually. If you have a school that wants to make sure that the students are not looking at Facebook, or probably not Facebook, because kids nowadays don't look at Facebook, right? They're not Snapgramming or TikToking or something. I don't know. so you want to make sure that your students or the young kids are actually looking at the page and not doing something else in their browser. So you can actually track the page visibility. Check if the user is actually there paying attention to your website. So page visibility can be very useful for that. So it tells you if the document is in display. It can be very useful to pause interactions. So if you have a video that is playing about something that you want to teach, if the user switches to another tab, then you can easily pause that video until he actually comes back, so he has to watch the whole video. To actually use it, it's relatively easy. It's part of the document object in modern browsers. It's a property called visibility state. It will return you visible, hidden, pre-render, or unloaded. So visible if the page is actually inside the browser being displayed right now. If it's hidden, if it's in, if the user is in another tab, if it's currently rendering, or unloaded. I'm not sure when unloaded is actually triggered, now that I think of it. But yeah, definitely visible and hidden can be very useful. Pre-render is a nice way to see if the page is still loading, so you can potentially do an action based on the fact that the page is just rendering at the moment and fetching some of the data and the pieces that it needs in order to complete. So that could be a useful use case as well. There's also a event listener. So there's also an event that you can, so for which you can add an event listener. And then the event is visibility change. So every time that visibility state is changed, you can actually trigger that. You can trigger the callback as part of it. So let's get to a demo. I think I'm even more surprised than you are whenever there's a demo. All right, so it should start in just a few seconds, and there it is. So as you can see right now in your browser, you should have a message that says the page is visible. Fair enough. It's not very impressive, right? If you switch to another tab and if you look at to another window and then you switch back to your browser, you should notice that it says page hidden right there. So the user is currently not looking at the page, so you can actually do something with the status bar. And when you come back, it will change the title again. It's a little bit tricky to see. Hopefully I don't have anything in the background. Oh no, that's fine. Okay. So if I try it here, you can see that I have my timer rolling. So it's 40, 41, 42, 43. If I go to another tab, you see first of all that it says pause now. So I'm actually, I can change the state once again, doing the same thing. So I just changed the title of my page. And if I go back to my application, I should be around, where was I? 40, 44? So 43, 44, 45. So you can see how I paused that interaction. I paused that timer for as long as the user was outside of the view. And as soon as he came back, I was able to continue that timer. So you could do something like that with videos. You could do something like that. Whenever you require something out of your user and you want to make sure that they're actually doing it and not doing something outside of it, you can easily just pause that interaction or that timer and then start it back once they're actually back on that page. All right, can you use that? Yes, it is supported on most browser again. Once again, even some of the earlier Internet Explorer support it. Chrome since version 33, that's been quite a while. So most modern browsers, once again, they all support it. iOS should even support it right now, so that should have worked so far. So good, so that's the support for page visibility. Okay, but that wasn't that cool. Like it was something interesting, something that you probably hadn't thought about before. But let's just try to look at something a little bit more cool, whatever cool means. Okay, so let's look at the speech API. Speech API is a fun one. I will try to get my speakers close by so you can actually hear it. So it's in-browser text-to-speech. So you can actually have your browser talk to your users. A lot of fun. You can build a lot of fun things with that. It's definitely pretty good if you have some sort of accessibility settings, but then it would probably go in and be a little bit confusing with the voice read. How's it called? The voice reader. Okay, you know what I mean. Sorry. So it supports multiple voices and languages, even, especially Chrome has a very good support. You can give it multiple voices. You can even have it to speak in French, in German. I've experimented with languages that I know, but they definitely support those. Kind of experimental with Firefox. It has a single voice, and it's kind of a Stephen Hawking type of voice, so very robotic. You know, it could be fun if you build a sci-fi game from the 80s or something. But apart from that, in Chrome, it's very, very well supported. To create it, you need to create an utterance in order to your browser to actually be able to speak. You'll create an utterance by using the speech synthesis utterance. Give it some text to be spoken, and then you can specify the rate and the pitch of that voice. Screen reader. Thank you. I don't know what, I had a little brain fart there. To get it to speak, use Windows speech synthesis, and then it will create a synthesis. And you can just use the speak method, pass it that utterance that you've just created, and it will speak. Does that mean that you can make it sound like Alvin and the Chipmunk? You can definitely, most definitely make it sound like Alvin and the Chipmunk. In fact, you should be able to do it in your own mobile device in a few minutes. So if you want to change the voice, you can use synth.getVoices. That is a function that will fetch all the voices that are available to you. There was something, I had a few issues on Chrome specifically. So when I did the first time I wanted to change or to get the voices, it didn't work. I only had the default one. So I needed the on voice change event to populate the voices, and then I was able to switch that voice. So there's a little thing that you need to do there, but other than that, it kind of works. So then you specify the voice on your utterance, and then you use the speak method again with that new voice. All right, get your phones out, quick. All right, if your device is not unlocked, it won't work. So you need to get it out, quick. Okay, there it is. All right, speech API. Let me get this. We'll see if this works.
I love this part of the talk. I can actually take a break here. Note how the pitch and rate are different now.
Not quite Alvin, but or the Chipmunks, but it's getting close.
Even better, it can change voice.
It can speak French, although it does not support French Canadian yet.
This cracks me up.
In a variety of different languages like German. Dankeschön.
But enough of this nonsense. Back to you, Joel. I have nothing else to say. I have nothing else to say.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, so hopefully you were able to actually hear that. I absolutely love how you can give it some English text to the French voice, and it will actually read English with a French accent. It just cracks me up. I love it. So I guess it just reminds me of myself a little bit. Okay, so and now you can actually use it on your mobile devices as well. So you should be able to switch the voices. Voice support is not as good on mobile devices as it is on the Chrome browser, but you should still be able to at least get it to speak, as well as changing the pitch and the rate. So you'll probably be able to simulate chipmunks if you play with it long enough. But I won't let you play long enough with it. I'll just switch over to the next slide. So can you use speech synthesis? Yes, you can actually use it in most modern browsers once again. So if you didn't notice by now, most of the APIs that I will be showing you today are supported by most modern browsers, and they are a little bit out of experimental mode, although sometimes they do sound a little bit experimental. So Firefox, like I said, the voice rendering is not as good. I think they fixed it a little bit in the latest version, or one of the latest versions, but last time I checked it, it was still not perfect. But definitely on the way. It's definitely getting better, and it's mostly supported, widely supported on most devices. All right, that's fun. So will I show anything practical in this talk? Probably not. Don't count on it. But we'll still have fun. All right. Okay. This is something practical: online and offline status. There's a lot of talks on progressive web applications nowadays, making sure that you can provide an experience to your users, even if they are in some place if the connectivity is not good and they keep getting disconnected. So online and offline. So this online and offline status can tell you if the user is actually online or not. So very useful when building PWAs. Very useful if you're providing with real-time information. Then you can definitely, or you should definitely check if the user is still online at any given point, because if he's offline, then he might get the sense that no data is coming back in, but he might not know that he's offline. So there's different things that you can do with that. So it includes some events on Windows, so you can see when the user gets disconnected and when he reconnects. It's interesting to know that it will always work, because The page is actually downloaded on your web page, so I'm not going to teach you anything, but it took me just a few seconds to realize, hey, well, how does it work when I'm offline? Well, it's actually downloaded and it still runs in your browser. So even if you're not online, it still runs. So that's how it will tell you when you're back online. Online state is part of the navigator object. Now note the weird syntax here. So it's a capital L. I never wrote online like that. I don't know why the API did it like this, but you can detect if the user is online by just checking the property. It'll give you a true or false. So it's a Boolean. You can detect if the user is online or offline. You also have the associated events, so window.onOnline and window.onOffline. so you can detect if the user goes online or offline. All right, demo should be now. There it is. Perfect. So let's try this out. You should be getting notifications as well each time there's a demo coming up. There you have it. So on your mobile device, of course, I can't test. Well, I could test it with my laptop, but then I get disconnected of the platform, and it would take me forever to reconnect. So I'll just do it on my phone right now. So you have this big green circle, and if you go in airplane mode, then it should switch to red as soon as the user is offline. And if you reconnect from your airplane mode, then it should reconnect or reswitch again to green. So you can easily detect if the user is online, offline. The event is relatively simple to use. So definitely, that's an interesting one that you can use. Widely supported as well. So most modern browsers, once again, it's been supported for a while in even IE8, although the support was not perfect. You can see a lot of information here. So it did work, but it was on document.body instead of window, but it's widely supported once again. All right, so that was a very useful. You'll have to give me that, right? So that was somewhat useful. Do I have anything else? Well, device orientation is another very interesting sensor that you can use. So that one will work on mobile device, of course. So it will actually make use of the gyro inside of your mobile device, as well as the accelerometer. I will never be able to say that word in English. I don't know why. L'accéléromètre in your mobile device. And I will show you how to actually test this in a laptop or in a desktop computer as well. So device orientation provides you with the device orientation. It will give you coordinates on 3 axes, so alpha, beta, gamma. If you do a little bit of math, you can figure out if the user is in landscape, portrait, although there is actually an API for that. So on device orientation, so whenever there's a change in the orientation of the device, you will trigger that event, which will have the alpha, beta, and gamma properties, and then you can use them and log them out or do some things with it. There's also an on-device motion, which can detect acceleration. So you can detect at what speed is the user changing the direction on their mobile device that you can also use. You could detect things like movement and so on with that. All right, quick, get your phones out. You'll have a demo in, oh no, it's not working on my device. Oh, there it is, 2, 1, 0, and there it is. So you should have a little ball that, well, yeah, it's kind of not working because it's switching, but you can see the ball is rolling. That one, unfortunately, won't be working on iOS. Sorry. It should be working on Android though, so you should be able to just keep that and keep that ball from rolling inside that little rectangle there. But let me show you on a browser right here. So I have my my slide right here. In the Chrome Inspector tool, in the Chrome Inspector, you have a sensor tab right here. If I click on sensor, and I could have shown that to you in the geolocation API demo, so you can actually override the location of the browser with various location or just specify a set of coordinates. But the one that interests us is the orientation one. So if I go to orientation, I can actually do a preset. I'll just put it in portrait mode right now. And as I move it, you can see that I'm changing the image. So I'm using a CSS transformation right here based on the device orientation just to switch the orientation of the bananas. So that's a lot of fun. Okay, so this is how you can actually debug some of those APIs as well. So there's a few settings and a few sensors that you can use here. Perfect. Can you use device orientation event? Yes, you can. Most modern browsers, once again, IE 11 does not support it. Oh, IE does not support it, but pretty much all modern browsers can support it nowadays. Sweet indeed. Interesting. So any other mobile device sensors that we can use? Well, they're trying to make most sensors in the phones nowadays available for browsers. Not all of them are available, but there's an effort into trying to make as much of those sensors available to your browsers so that we can really build native applications using JavaScript and JavaScript only. So here's another one that is available to you. And I always feel bad about telling programmers about the Vibrate API, mainly because it's very annoying. Make sure that if you ever use it, don't abuse it. But actually, you should probably just never use it. Please. With great powers come great responsibilities, right? That can be really annoying. Like, really, if you can start vibrating the phone of the users as soon as they hit your website, that's we'll be back in GeoCities days. Like, but instead of having animated GIFs, it'll be vibrations on your devices. So what you can do with the Vibrate API is that you can actually make your phone vibrate. Check if it's part of Navigator. If it is, use the vibrate method and give it a number of milliseconds during which it should vibrate, and that's it. It should work. Vibrate 0 will stop any vibration. You can even pass it an array of time to vibrate and then time for a pause in milliseconds and go on with that. So with this, you probably see where I'm going at right now. So what I'll try to do is to make your phone vibrate on like at like certain songs. Does that make sense? All right, so get your phone out. You'll actually see what I mean right there. So get your phone out for this demo. This one, obviously, you need a mobile device to test it out. It won't work on the laptop. That would be that would be weird. If you click on, you should have a start and a stop button. If you click on start, it should vibrate. There's a James Bond theme song. There's a SOS Morse code. There's the Imperial March. I think that's my favorite one. There's the Super Mario Brothers theme song. So there's a few of them. They'll just play randomly. So just click on it. Try this out for a few seconds. I would be interested in knowing if it works with iOS. I tried one little tweak just before the presentation, but nope. Oh, well. Time to get an Android, Marty. Trolling. Okay, so, but for the other people, you should be able to get your phone to vibrate and to experiment with that a little bit. Okay. Half of my stock is informative about web APIs, and the other half is just trolling iOS users. So can you use the Vibrate API? Yeah, it's not very well supported. I tried on Chrome and on iOS device. It didn't work. Safari won't work. So it's definitely not very well supported. But once again, I've already told you probably shouldn't be using that. Like that's. I had an ad the other day that used that. Like, you have a malware installed on your computer, and I was, I really don't know. So please don't use it. What are my thoughts on using this for haptic feedback or accessibility? If it's in the context of an application where it would make sense, I absolutely agree, Martin. There's definitely ways to provide some sort of feedback to users that would really provide a better experience for people who have some sort of accessibility issues. I can definitely see a way where if you make it intentional, you can definitely help your users to navigate through an application. I am mostly joking on the fact that you shouldn't use it, of course. Don't use it for bad intentions. But I definitely agree with you. I'm sure there's a way to provide with some feedback with your users. I was thinking haptic feedback, or just providing some sort of, hey, you've got new data just popped in, or something to get the attention of your users. But yeah, so there's definitely some good use cases for it. Yeah, just be careful when you use it. Okay, you've probably already seen that one as well. So let's move on to Clipboard API. Clipboard API is one that I really, really like. In my job, I have to write a lot of blog posts. This is one of the things that I do. And it's really nice to provide the users with some sort of way to just copy the code that you've put in there. One of the good reasons for that is whenever I put samples of code or bash scripts, there's always that $ in front of my bash scripts just to make it obvious it's a bash script. But then when people copy that line, they actually copy the $. It doesn't work. So by using a Clipboard API, you can just copy the parts that are important for your user. And you can, in general, just make the experience of your user better. So for documentation, code samples, those are very, very good examples that we can relate to. But any time that you want a user to be able to reuse some piece of code, then you can definitely use the clipboard. So very useful if you want to share some things. Paste will not work in all browsers, though. So that's very important. There's an important security issue with that. And that part is very discussed between and how it's going to be implemented. So the paste part of the copy paste is definitely not very well supported. An obvious hack that you could do is that as soon as a user goes to your page, you could definitely, or as soon as a user logs in, you could definitely get whatever is pasted in the clipboard, and you'd be able to find the passwords of the user, because a lot of users will just paste in a password, right? So you know, there's a lot of different things and a lot of security issues around that, or just any sort of confidential information could have been could be there in the clipboard. So you need to make sure that, or the browsers need to make sure that whatever information they're giving access to the programmers is information that the user is aware he's sharing. Copy and pasting can be done with text and binary objects, but it needs to be triggered by, it needs to be user triggered once again. So it needs to be a user action that will trigger that event. So you'll need to actually click on a button in order to copy it to your clipboard. To copy some text, navigator.clipboard.writeText will be supported in most major browsers. So just write some text, write something inside the clipboard, and you will have a promise-based, that's a promise-based API, so a little bit more modern, and then you will have a success or an error. Some browsers, like Chrome, will actually do it. It will actually let you read text, so you can read from the clipboard. So it's just navigator.clipboard read text, and you have also a promise-based API, so you'll just get the data inside that clipboard. All right, so time for a demo. Let's open up my mobile device. 210. There it is. So you should have some text. So you can just copy whatever text is in there. And then if you remove everything in the input box and you click on the paste button, it should just put that code back. So I have the same thing here. So if I copy whatever is in here, I can just remove this. And if I click paste again, you can see that it's pasted again. I can take some text from somewhere else. If I just copy this and click on paste, you can see that it's been pasted right here. So you can access that user clipboard either for copying or pasting. Like I said, pasting, not very well supported. So you see that there's a lot of yellowish in here. So every browser has different specifications. So there's definitely not a good agreement on how to do that. On whether it should be done or not. So there's a lot of potential security issues there, and I'm actually glad that they take the time to discuss it before they widely implement, although it is somewhat implemented, but it's still a little bit tricky to implement. So there will be a lot of, you know, if Navigator equals Firefox, do this. So you know, it might not be something that you want to use right now, but the copy part works really well. So if you have anything, any sort of documentation, anything that you want to share to your user and that they could potentially use to paste somewhere else manually, then definitely make it easier for them by just clicking on the button and it will be copied to their clipboard. Now that was useful, wasn't it? Good. So you have something out of it. That's good. Here's another one, the Get User Media API. This one should actually maybe work on my machine. So it works great live, but usually I'm using a camera, the same laptop for virtual presentation as the one that I'm trying to use. So I can't use two different APIs. I can have two different devices or applications trying to access the same webcam. So it usually doesn't work for demos, but it might actually work today. So Get User Media gives you access to a user microphone or the camera. It provides you with a stream if you're looking at or in both cases, actually, in both cases. And if you want to manipulate the images from the camera, you'll need a canvas. So you'll have a stream of information that comes in, and you'll need a canvas, and you'll need to draw the images on the canvas in order to display inside the browser. So in order to get the video, you can use navigator.mediadevices.getUserMedia. You specify video equals true. Then you'll have a media stream that you can use, and you can play the video. To get the audio, very similar, audio equals true. And this is the code to copy to canvas. I just realized that I'm running out of time, so I'll go a little bit faster. So basically, you just take the image, draw it on the canvas, and do that every 33 milliseconds to have a video stream. So let's go to the demo. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, there it is. So you should have it, and oh, wow, it works. So you have it right here. I don't know why there's only half of my image, but and I should be able to, where is it? What is it looking at? Oh, there it is. So you can see that I'm drawing one canvas with my current webcam feed, and the other image is just an enlarged version of that canvas. So on your mobile device, you should have a little bit of Inception again. So you should have this right now. If you scroll down, there's a few filters that you can use. Where is it? So you can switch to a black and white filter or to a, there's various filters. So I was just having a little bit of fun there with the Get User Media API. So this is kind of how you can use it as well. All right, can you use Get User Media? Yes, most modern browser devices again. Wow, that was pretty cool. I know I went fast, but it's still kind of cool. Another one that I wanted to introduce you is the Web Audio API. Another one that is not well known. So it takes an audio stream and manipulates it, and then you can modulate the sound with oscillators. Now, I am not a musician. My brother is actually a professional musician, and he builds his own synthesizers, and he plays with sound waves all the time, and he knows exactly how to make wonders with the Web Audio API. I have no clue what I'm doing. But basically, you create an oscillator. You connect that to your audio context. You create a gain, connect that to your audio context, and then you'll be able to use that oscillator to change the frequency of the sound waves as well as the gain. So the amplitude and frequency of your waves, which will change the volume and the tone that you are hearing. This is actually a fun one, so you don't want to miss that one. I missed it. Oh, well. You should be able to... I didn't do it in time. So you should be able to put your finger on your mobile device and just move it around the screen, and it should do that theremin effect. In the meantime, I'll play with this one that I have in front of me. And once again, I'll try to use that mic here. And I have different sound waves related to the various notes. So... I don't know how loud it is for you, but it's really loud here. You can also change the form of the wave. Sawtooth and triangle and back to a sine. It hurts. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's horrible. Stop it. Stop. When I do this live, it's actually horrible because then everybody also has their device making sounds, which I'm now going to prevent it. But it's a fun one. Okay, so can you use the audio? Do I still have people listening in? Can I use the audio? Yes, it is widely supported once again, so you can definitely use it. This wasn't a very impressive demo just because I don't really know how to manipulate sound waves, but there's definitely some fun things that you can do with that. All right, let's make the sound stop. Let's go to the Gamepad API. So you can actually use the input from a USB connected gamepad to do some various things. It could make some weird navigation. One thing that you need to know, though, is that the button and axis can change from one browser to the other. So it's kind of hard to get some consistency between the various browsers. Apart from that, they work in the same way. So you will add an event listener for gamepad connected. Once the gamepad is connected, you will have a game loop, and then you'll just check for if the gamepad button is pressed. So you'll have to experiment with your buttons and so on a little bit. So I'll let you, for the alarm clock game, I'll let you get this other demo up and running. All right, so I'll connect my gamepad. I'll try to reconnect my gamepad. Oh, come on, it worked yesterday. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you can send torpedoes at me by clicking on the buttons there, and I can try to hit them with my browser. Now, and in theory, they should all be lined up, but I didn't spend a lot of time. Okay, this is fun. I'm actually all right. Okay, I'm winning. That's good. I'll stop it here before I lose. So, yeah, everything should be lined up. But hey, if you want to do a PR on my repo, I'd be more than happy if you can just line up those little carrots and they're the little V's. Okay, so this is one thing that you can use as well. So if you want to play with games, definitely use the Gamepad API. And whew, that was fun. Good. Bluetooth API. I think that this is the last one. Can connect to Bluetooth devices. It's a promise-based API. Every device is highly different. So you'll kind of need to experiment with devices if it's not documented, and it rarely is. But this is the code to connect to a heart rate monitor. And I'll just jump right into the demo. Try to get this to work. And I'll get mine out. And 2, 1, 0. There it is. Let me click on here. Oh, is it not going to work? Really? I might actually not be able to get it to work. Oh, all right. Not sure why we're having issues. Not enough time to try to debug. So let's move on. You won't be able to have my live heart rate. So sad. But it is usually very well supported. I'm not sure why this didn't work, but 72% of browsers, Firefox does not support Bluetooth, which was kind of surprising for me. There's a few other APIs that I wanted to show, but by the time between the time I wrote this talk and I first gave it, they were deprecated. So the battery API, so you can get the battery levels of your mobile device, which I thought was interesting because they removed it for security reasons. Some people were able to track the position of users based on the battery API. I have no clue how they did that. Context menu as well, changed the right-click menu. That was also deprecated. There's a few experimental APIs that I wanted to show, but I wasn't able to get enough support on it. Ambient light, so the proximity sensor, different things like that. So in summary, there's a lot of APIs that are available to you. Ultimately, everything should be or would be supported in the browser. But most importantly, what I want you to take out of this is explore and have fun. There's so many things that are available. Experiment with them and have fun with sometimes just program stuff for fun, because then you learn about all those different APIs that you didn't know existed, and that might make it for a better experience for your users in the future. So MDN, Mozilla Developer Network, great resource for documentation. Can I use is the website that I've shown, and that is all I had. So thank you very much for attending. I will be around for another 2 or 3 minutes just to answer questions before the next session. So I'm terribly sorry that I went almost on time, pretty much on time. Oh, I have one link as well to share for all the resources. I'm not sure why it wasn't in my... Oh, there it is, actually. Ha! So my browser does what? Code PaLOusa. I actually took the time to update that one. Easy URL to browser API. So you'll find the source code there, as well as a few resources, a few more links. So feel free to take a look. And yeah, I'll stick around if you have any questions. Thank you, Ron. Nice talking to you.